On the final of the 6 cultivation stars belonging to the Fontion Wolf clan branch, a billowing crimson mist surged skyward, rapidly contracting and condensing until Wang Lin's figure emerged. A flash of red glinted in his eyes. Though his essence spirit was still wounded, it had begun to recover. With a cold gaze, he moved without pause. As his body materialized, he simultaneously retreated and lashed out with a palm strike across the void toward the 6 cultivation stars before him. In that instant, the hidden restrictions Wang Lin had left on those stars erupted. One of the stars violently trembled, then suddenly collapsed. The force of its destruction shook the starry sky. This was no abandoned cultivation star, it was one filled with spiritual energy, hard-won by the Fontion Wolf clan. Its collapse unleashed a power far beyond anything a desolate star could produce. It wasn't just mountains and land that crumbled, waves of immense and concentrated spiritual energy erupted as well. The deafening roars echoed through the cosmos as the stars shattered into countless fragments, creating a massive storm that swept outward. The timing of the explosion was perfect. Wang Lin had long predicted his enemies would pursue him. While recovering his essence spirit, he had secretly prepared this trap. Just as the massive wolf cultivator of the Fontion clan approached, the star collapsed. Had it been only a single cultivation star, it wouldn't have revealed the depth of Wang Lin's ruthlessness. But as the first star exploded, the remaining 5 rumbled in unison. Tremendous shockwaves, filled with fragments of stone, erupted into a sky-piercing force, spreading in all directions. From afar, it looked like the very stars were collapsing, like the end of days. The storm formed by the 6 shattered cultivation stars surged like a monstrous maw, rushing straight toward the massive cultivator. In a flash, he was consumed by the storm. Boom, 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 boom. Deafening explosions swept across the starry void. Just then, a thunderous wolf's howl split the heavens. From within the tempest of shattered stars burst a 10,000 zhang azure wolf, ferocious and wild. Though its size remained unchanged, most of its body had become ethereal, its brilliance greatly dimmed. It howled in fury and lunged straight for Wang Lin like a celestial wolf devouring the moon, jaws open wide, ready to swallow him whole. As those jaws neared, about to consume him, Wang Lin, still retreating, revealed a cold smile. With a sudden sweep of his right hand, a turtle shell appeared before him. The moment it emerged, ghostly light flared in all directions like countless sharp blades, piercing outward wildly. The shell shimmered violently, then turned ethereal and began to swell. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into an enormous turtle beast. This was the very ancient soul seal gifted to Wang Lin by the old vermilion bird, once meant for use on the Emperor Star Arena. The turtle beast took form and shielded Wang Lin beneath it. It raised its head and unleashed a thunderous roar. Just then, the azure wolf arrived, and with a boom, collided head-on with the turtle's shell. From a distance, the scene was breathtaking. The storms from the 6 shattered cultivation stars swept across the void, while beyond them, a colossal illusory azure wolf snarled at a titanic roaring turtle, and the 2 forces collided in full fury. The starry sky shook with the thunderous booms. Waves of power rippled outward in all directions like furious tides. The turtle shell trembled, then rapidly shrank as Wang Lin snatched it back, retreating swiftly. As for the azure wolf, already wounded by the explosive storm, it suffered even more from the recoil of the turtle beast. Most of its body collapsed as it reeled back 10,000 zhang. From within the storm of destruction, the figure of the Fontion Wolf clan cultivator stepped out. With a wave of his right hand, the severely damaged azure wolf instantly returned to his side. Wang Lin's eyes glinted coldly. Blood trickled from the corners of his mouth as he retreated. Ripples spread beneath his feet, a sign he was about to use the shrinking earth technique to flee. Yet his gaze, subtle and nearly imperceptible, remained fixed on the young girl atop the man's shoulder. His pupils contracted as he stared, so subtly that it was barely noticeable. Even the girl herself didn't realize that while Wang Lin appeared to be fleeing, his eyes were locked on her. If she had known, if she understood Wang Lin, her heart would surely have trembled with a deep sense of foreboding. The Fontion Wolf clan cultivator's gaze turned murderous as he prepared to give chase. But suddenly, his expression changed. A phantom flame burst from within his body, spreading rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was engulfed in fire. Even the weakened azure wolf behind him was consumed by the ethereal flame, letting out a piercing, agonized howl. Ethereal flame cultivator? Damn it! The man shouted, face turning pale as he coughed up blood, eyes filled with shock. On his shoulder, the girl furrowed her brows and turned her gaze toward Wang Lin, who was retreating into the distance, about to escape. Lifting her jade-like hand, she touched the center of her forehead and softly spoke. Descendant of the Seal Annihilation Clan, I now invoke my clan's great divine ability seal to seal his escape. Just as she finished her incantation, the distant Wang Lin, retreating, suddenly exploded with light in his eyes. In that instant, when the radiance flickered in his gaze, 6 collapsing cultivation stars transformed, and a tremendous storm surged outward. A blood-red light rose to the heavens. It was the blood sword, which Wang Lin had long concealed on the cultivation star. Even though the star had collapsed, it had remained hidden within the chaotic shockwaves, never showing itself. But now, it surged forward. As the blood light illuminated the starry sky, the sword darted straight toward the young woman. The speed of the blood sword was so fast that in the blink of an eye, it was near the young woman, aiming straight at her brow. It seemed like it would pierce through, and the girl stood frozen in shock, unable to react to this sudden turn of events. In a flash of bloodlight at an unimaginable speed, the blood sword pierced through her brow and shot out from the back of her head. It flickered and, with Wang Lin's figure, shrank to an inch, disappearing instantly. Clean and decisive. This scene made the towering man from the Fontian Wolf clan freeze, his pupils contracting sharply. His heart shook, and a deep sense of dread began to rise within him. He's clearly an illusory flame cultivator, yet he's been holding back all along, until just now when he stirred my emotions. While I was trying to suppress my illusory flame with all my might, I never imagined he had already hidden the sword inside that cultivation star. In an instant, he took the life of Mystic Tone Dao Venerable's attendant. Such deep scheming. That sword is also a strange artifact. Its speed is astonishing, and its sharpness is extreme. This person knows that I am a third-step cultivator, and perhaps has a means to resist the blood sword. To ensure a kill, he chose not to ambush me but instead to annihilate this attendant. The man's eyes revealed a trace of caution. What he feared was not the local cultivator's cultivation, but the endless treasures and methods, as well as the deep calculation and schemes. What he didn't know was that, aside from fearing he wouldn't be able to kill him, the most important thing for Wang Lin was that he had recognized the mark on the girl's brow. This mark represented power and danger, and Wang Lin remembered it vividly. Seal Annihilation Clan. One of the rarest ancient clans, and their numbers were incredibly few. With this girl present, all of Wang Lin's divine abilities could be sealed. Once sealed, the consequences would be unpredictable. Even in Wang Lin's eyes, although the girl's cultivation was not high, her threat was not far behind the man from the third step of early void nirvana. What a ruthless person. A soft sigh came from the Fontian Wolf clan man's shoulder. He saw the girl, her brow pierced and blood flowing down in a shocking sight, slowly regaining some gleam in her eyes after a brief moment of emptiness. The wound on her brow visibly wriggled with the naked eye, rapidly healing until it completely recovered, leaving a scar that would permanently remain. The wound at the back of her head also healed. She raised her delicate fingers and wiped the blood from her brow scar, then brought it to her lips. A terrifying amount of calculation and scheming. He had already planned our approach. First, he placed a restriction on these 6 cultivation stars and triggered it the moment we got close. Amid the collapse of the stars, he disturbed our minds so we only noticed the stars collapse and failed to notice the hidden flying sword within. That was his true purpose. The girl's gaze flickered. He must have known I'm from the Seal Annihilation Clan. This whole setup was to kill me. The girl smiled faintly, but her eyes betrayed a hint of suppressed caution. Such deep scheming. Once he confirmed I was the enemy, he decisively acted with cruelty. A person like this is dangerous. We underestimated him. Even our master underestimated him. If it weren't for the 3 souls of my Seal Annihilation Clan, just now, I would have died. The girl gritted her silver teeth. Though her expression remained calm, her heart was filled with fear. In that instant, she hadn't even had a chance to think. She had died in the blink of an eye. She had never experienced anything like this in her life. Chase him down, to the ends of the earth. Northeast. 1,734,532 miles. This person's schemes are so deep, we must be on guard. Even his escape route probably has meaning. This direction, this. The woman spoke softly, her hand still trembling as she held the compass. She suddenly looked up and stared northeast. That's where the ancient burial ground is. The man from the Fontian Wolf clan remained silent and took a step forward. The starry sky rumbled as he tore open a rift and stepped into it. Only when he had left did the rift slowly close, and the starry sky calmed down. The storm created by the collapsed cultivation stars continued to spread. Outside the ancient burial ground rift, thick mist swirled, containing terrifying power. Even the third-step cultivator would be cautious, not daring to step into the mist. The mist stretched for 100,000 miles in the starry sky. Surrounding it were many cultivators from the ancient stars, all of whom watched warily. No one noticed that, at this moment, deep within the fog-covered rift of the ancient burial ground, a violent change was brewing, and moments later, it erupted with a shocking intensity that could shake the very foundation of the primordial era. The forces converged, causing the storm to violently surge out of the rift, as though it sought to tear apart the dense fog surrounding it. The dense fog that spread across 100,000 miles of the starry sky was instantly swept away by the storm, releasing an earth-shattering roar. The rumbling sound started faint and muffled, but it quickly grew louder and louder, until it reverberated throughout the entire starry sky in just moments. The fog within the 100,000-mile radius began to churn violently, as though it had gained consciousness, now seething with boundless fury, sweeping across the stars in its wake. The rolling fog surged intensely, moving at incredible speed, pushing outward with a frenzy. Outside this 100,000-mile fog, many cultivators had been observing closely, and a few powerful figures had even quietly entered the fog to study it. But now, all of them were caught in the turbulence of the fog, their expressions changing drastically as they hastily retreated. The opening of the ancient burial ground had attracted the attention of almost all the grand cultivators of the entire primordial star system. They immediately put aside all other matters and hurried over. However, these cultivators, who had just arrived, found themselves forced to retreat under the shockwaves of the fog. Looking from high above, it became clear that the fog was like a collapsing force, turning into a massive whirlpool storm, rapidly spreading in a roaring frenzy. An elder whose cultivation had reached the fourth decay of heaven and man could not retreat in time. He was directly swept up by the storm's whirlpool, letting out a dreadful scream as his body trembled violently. In the blink of an eye, his flesh and blood were completely corroded, leaving behind only a skeletal frame. His nascent soul, too, perished tragically within the swirling fog. This same scene was unfolding all around as the fog storm raged. As the fog whirlpool continued to expand, its range grew exponentially. 100,000 miles, 300,000 miles, 500,000 miles, 1,000,000 miles. There was no stopping it, and the fog multiplied once more. 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, until it reached 10 million miles, and then tens of millions of miles. Within this vast circular spread, many cultivators were turned to skeletons, their bodies disintegrating into ash. All of this occurred in the blink of an eye, a true cataclysm. Strangely, not all cultivators caught in the fog perished. In nearly every group of 10 people, one would be spared. Their bodies were unharmed, instead flourishing with an unprecedented vitality, as if they had become years younger. Furthermore, a peculiar mark suddenly appeared near their third eye, resembling strange numerical markings. These markings appeared to be numerical symbols. Anyone with such markings on their foreheads would immediately be sucked into the storm's center by an irresistible force, directly drawn into the core of the swirling fog that spanned tens of millions of miles, deep into the rift of the ancient burial ground. The avatar of mystic Tone Dao Venerable, a young and elegant figure, was hastily retreating, his face grim. He had already retreated for tens of millions of miles, but he was reluctant to leave. This is the ancient burial ground. It must be the ancient burial ground. It is said that this tomb has only opened once since the dawn of time. Anyone who enters can obtain unimaginable opportunities. Whether it's magical treasures, elixirs, or divine arts, even methods to help a third-step cultivator break into the void tribulation realm are said to be inside. Mystic Tone Dao Venerable's expression was volatile as he rapidly retreated. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth, swung his hands, and although his realm of devotional power didn't open, a vast force of incense power surrounded him, forming countless incense souls. Surrounded by these incense souls, which were all strikingly beautiful men and women, numbering in the billions, Mystic Tone Dao Venerable's expression twisted with determination. Charge. Mystic Tone Dao Venerable's expression twisted as he stepped forward, abandoning his retreat and charging toward the nearby fog. The moment he touched the fog, his body's billions of incense souls let out a piercing, sorrowful scream. From within the fog, an overwhelming power erupted, a force no one could resist. As the storm collided with him, the 4/5 of his incense souls were instantly annihilated. His face pale, Mystic Tone Dao Venerable only managed to take 3 steps forward. Clenching his teeth, he let out a low growl and took another step, making hand seals to invoke Daoist techniques. But as he completed the 4th step, the incoming fog slammed into his body, and the remaining incense souls, 6/10 of them, were completely destroyed. Blood spurted from Mystic Tone Dao Venerable's mouth, and he hastily retreated. I can't force my way in. Should I risk it? As he retreated, a difficult choice lay before him. Even if I have to give up an avatar, my true self will take this gamble. Mystic Tone Dao Venerable's expression twisted in a ferocious snarl. His body came to a halt, and without casting any more divine techniques, he rushed straight into the fog, colliding with it head-on. His body was struck by the mist, causing a violent shudder. Despite his clone having reached the mid-ethereal stage, his cultivation rapidly plummeted under the mist's influence. From early ethereal stage, mid-void nirvana stage, late void nirvana stage, to early void nirvana stage. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation was reduced by 90%. He spat out a mouthful of blood as his body withered rapidly, and the refined appearance he once had vanished in an instant. At that moment, a numerical marking appeared on his forehead. As soon as the marking appeared, a force of suction came and pulled his body directly into the crack at the center of the storm. I understand now, he thought. 3rd step cultivation can resolve the power of this mist, but at the ancient burial ground, the early void nirvana stage is the highest limit to enter. The same scene unfolded across the vast expanse of mist spanning tens of millions of miles. In the westernmost part of the mist, a colossal beast comparable to a cultivation star, the moon-watching beast, stood. The elder with a dual-colored face on its back sensed something unusual in the mist. His eyes flashed as he made a decision. Raising both hands, he quickly performed a hand seal, placing his fingers on his forehead. In an instant, his soul split into 3 parts. These 3 parts rushed into the bodies of Wu Dongchan, Ji Xiantian, and the moon-watching beast. After completing this, the elder's face turned pale, and he quickly retreated, muttering under his breath, Wu Dongchan, Ji Xiantian, moon-watching beast, you 3 enter the ancient tomb. The mist roared toward them, and at the same time, numerical markings appeared on their foreheads. The suction force pulled them straight into the depths of the mist. As the elder retreated, his figure suddenly vanished, reappearing at a far-off cultivation star where he immediately crossed his legs to meditate. The elder, known as the Great Baron Sage and dressed in animal skins, flashed his eyes as the mist swirled around him. Throughout his life, he never used clones and wouldn't risk entering the ancient tomb with his real body after being weakened by the mist. As he retreated, his right hand kept rising. Each time it did, a retreating cultivator was grabbed from the mist and tossed into the storm. One by one, these cultivators died horribly, their bodies turning into skeletons. But after 7 had fallen, the 8th, an elderly man, trembled, not dead. A numerical marking appeared on his forehead. This elderly man had a sickly, yellowish face, as though plagued by a long-term illness. As the marking appeared on his forehead, the Great Baron Sage's eyes flashed coldly. He formed a hand seal, and his soul instantly split, shooting straight into the elderly man's forehead, seizing control of his body. The elderly man trembled violently, letting out a tragic scream before vanishing into the mist. The Great Baron Sage's face paled slightly, and he turned to leave the mist. The 3rd step great powers displayed their abilities. There was no need to elaborate further. The rolling mist, after spreading across tens of millions of miles, did not stop, but instead expanded once more, seemingly without end. At this moment, Wang Lin's figure emerged from the twisted starry sky. Without hesitation, he rushed forward. However, after just 100 paces, his pupils suddenly contracted. He looked up and saw the starry sky in the distance erupting like 1,000 horses charging, a massive mist storm rolling toward him. What is this? Wang Lin's heart trembled. During his escape, he had split off a fragment of his divine sense and merged it with Tian Yunzi's soul, hastily calculating. He vaguely deduced that fleeing in this direction would greatly benefit him. At that moment, the sky behind him tore open, the stars distorting as a massive black hole formed. The Fengtian Wolf clan warrior stepped out. The young girl who had supposedly died on his shoulder was eerily absent. However, a gray mark was hidden on the man's bare shoulder, so subtle that it was hard to notice unless one looked closely. Upon seeing the storm in the distance, the warrior's expression changed. He hesitated for a moment, but quickly took a step toward Wang Lin. With a raise of his right hand and a hand seal, howls from wolves echoed around him. 8 directions, extreme wolf Dao. The man muttered as the starry sky rumbled. 8 phantom wolves, each several thousand feet long, suddenly materialized, surrounding Wang Lin and charging at him with fury. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. His body shot forward like a meteor. His speed was incredible, but the incoming mist storm was faster. In the blink of an eye, it engulfed him, colliding with the 8 ethereal wolves. Boom, boom, boom. The deafening crash was overwhelmed by the storm's impact, and the 8 wolves shattered in an instant. The storm then swept over the Fengtian warrior, who had turned pale and was forced to retreat. The tall man did not know the eerie mist, but he sensed the immense power contained within it. He quickly stepped back, but he couldn't match the speed of the storm. As the mist surged toward him, his cultivation, still at the early void nirvana stage, was already on the brink of weakness. Suddenly, a numerical marking appeared on his forehead, but a dreadful scream came from his right shoulder. The mist of the ancient burial ground tests everyone, regardless of cultivation level. Even the 3rd step great powers must endure it, let alone a mere woman from the Seal Annihilation clan. As soon as her figure emerged, she immediately began to tremble violently. Her body withered at an alarming rate, and in the blink of an eye, she was completely corroded by the mist, turning into a pile of withered bones. Yet in this mist, the woman died again. However, just as she perished, her withered bones did not dissipate. Instead, they emitted a faint gray light, and in a mere moment, her flesh and blood began to grow back. In the blink of an eye, the dead girl was miraculously reborn. Terror was evident in her eyes. In such a short time, she had been killed by Wang Lin once. She had been relieved, but as soon as she was hit by the mist, she had no power to resist and died instantly. 2 lives of Seal Annihilation gone. But none of this was the source of her fear. What terrified her now was that, despite being reborn and still having 1 life left, she was still trapped within this mist. The mist kills invisibly, and even though she had been reborn, if she were struck again, the consequences would mean true death. The girl, nearly as soon as she was reborn, turned pale with fear and desperately tried to retreat, hoping to escape the mist. But how could she compare to the speed of this mist? Her body reappeared, and before she could retreat far, the mist surged wildly toward her. Despair filled her eyes. Her Seal Annihilation clan was nearly invincible, but now, the terror of death was overwhelming. All of this happened in a flash, so fast it was unimaginable. The girl was again enveloped by the mist, and she had already given up hope. But strangely, the mist seemed to turn within her body before suddenly pulling away. Not only did she not die, but a surge of vitality began to grow within her, rushing toward her forehead, where a numerical marking formed. In the span of a moment, the girl experienced life and death. Sweat drenched her clothes, and before she could come to her senses, an overwhelming pull surrounded her. She couldn't struggle against it, and she was directly sucked into the depths of the mist. The giant man from the Fengtian Wolf clan, just a step ahead of her, was also pulled into the mist. All of this was clearly visible to Wang Lin, his eyes flashing. The image of the girl dying and coming back to life struck his mind deeply. I killed her once before, and this strange mist killed her again, but she still doesn't die. The Seal Annihilation clan is too strong, but judging by her final expression, it's not a lie. That look of despair shows the truth of her heart. If this woman dies again, she can't come back. Wang Lin observed carefully, his mind working fast. It wasn't difficult for him to analyze the situation. What truly puzzled him was his own state. The mist had rushed into him, but instead of forming a numerical mark on his forehead, it turned into a surge of ancient god power, which was immediately absorbed by the star mark in his forehead. However, within that ancient god power, there was a vast amount of death energy, and a lingering sense of resentment filled the air. As Wang Lin absorbed it, violent energy erupted within his body, turning into a frenzied aura that bombarded his mind. If he hadn't suppressed it quickly and stopped the absorption, his mind would have been disrupted. But despite this, after dispelling the violent ancient god power, his mind became clearer than ever before. The sensation was so clear it felt like crossing between summer and winter. The numerical marking did not appear on his forehead, so he wasn't pulled in by the force. Within the mist, Wang Lin's eyes glimmered as his mind raced with analysis. Gradually, his gaze grew sharper. Recalling the numerical markings in the direction he was heading when he arrived, his pupils suddenly shrank. Those numerical markings, outsiders can't understand, but they're clearly ancient text. Could this place be the direction that the greedy wolf mentioned for leaving the ancient burial ground? Wang Lin's heart stirred, his eyes flashing with sharp light. He suddenly turned, staring straight into the depths of the mist, where the Fodian wolf clan man and the girl had been pulled. No wonder there was no ancient text marking on my forehead. No wonder the mist that entered my body turned into ancient god power. That man had the number 14 on his forehead. The girl's was 29. Wang Lin licked his lips, deep in thought. This place is filled with danger, and the ancient burial ground is even more perilous. Should I go or not go? 3 breaths later, a look of determination appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. His personality was such that he would seek fortune in danger. If he gave up entering the ancient burial ground, he might never get another chance, not in this life, or even for many years to come. With a flash of his eyes, Wang Lin's expression turned cold, revealing caution as he swiftly moved toward the depths of the mist. The more dangerous it was, the more it represented an opportunity and destiny. The ancient burial ground, let me, Wang, experience for myself what kind of horrors and fortunes exist here. As an ancient god, entering this place should naturally bring me far more benefits than anyone else. Wang Lin moved like a fish in water, speeding forward while decisively abandoning the idea of absorbing the mist filled with deathly energy and resentment. Though this mist could enhance his ancient god power, Wang Lin knew that if he absorbed it, his consciousness might not remain his own. Instead, the deathly energy and resentment would take control of him, turning him into something akin to a living corpse. His speed grew faster, but his expression became even more cautious. Though he wasn't being overly careful, it was close. His life had been saved time and again because of this caution, allowing him to escape life or death crises. If there had been any recklessness, it would have been in his calculations of the person he suspected might be the Palm Sovereign. That thought had come to him suddenly, without warning. To be precise, it had arisen after speaking with the first-generation vermilion bird. In his heart, he had developed a number of justifications and reasons for this, even using the soul of Tian Yunzi to help with the deductions. He had made up his mind that, if the Palm Sovereign was indeed in closed-door meditation there, and if he was gravely wounded but had slightly recovered, he would immediately use that jade slip to escape back to the inner realm. It all seemed like his own ideas, naturally appearing without any trace of interference. But after fleeing the Fire Sparrow clan's sacred land, when Wang Lin began to suspect the middle-aged man might be the Palm Sovereign, a terrifying doubt suddenly appeared in his mind. This doubt sent a chill down his spine. Why did I do something so crazy? Why did such a wild thought arise? As soon as this doubt appeared, it was quickly dismissed from his mind, almost as if something else had disrupted his thoughts, causing him to forget that such a doubt had emerged when he had first suspected the Palm Sovereign's identity. However, at this moment, as he entered the mist, his mind suddenly cleared. It was as if the inside and outside of the mist were 2 different worlds, and an unknown force, which had been influencing him since his entry, had abruptly severed its hold on him. This disappearance of the mysterious force caused the doubt he had previously dismissed to resurface, stronger and more intense. In just a moment, cold sweat broke out on his body. He suddenly turned around, his gaze fixed on the roiling mist behind him. His eyes seemed to pierce through endless layers, seeing past the mist and spotting the tranquil primordial stars. After a long while, Wang Lin retracted his gaze, his eyes revealing a trace of fear. This feeling was something he had never experienced in his life. The more he thought back on his journey to the primordial stars, the more he felt that there was some unseen power, guiding and controlling him from the shadows. After a brief moment of silence, Wang Lin's fear was replaced with cold resolve. He pondered carefully for a long time, confirming that his decision to enter the ancient burial ground had been made after his own analysis, not because some unseen force had influenced him to head straight toward the depths of the mist. His speed increased again, almost turning into a streak of light as he closed in on the mist's deepest point. He saw several struggling cultivators being sucked into the mist, their bodies rushing past him. These people all had numerical markings on their foreheads. 37, 45, 71. Wang Lin silently approached the deepest part of the mist, and from a distance, he saw a sinister crack within the mist. There was no mist inside the crack, only waves of distortion. Despite this, Wang Lin could immediately make out the gruesome heads floating above the shattered stones. The ancient burial ground. With a flash in his eyes, Wang Lin took a step forward, about to enter the crack. But just as he did, the mist around him suddenly rumbled. He turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. From the rolling mist behind him, a figure slowly emerged. It was a middle-aged scholar, strikingly handsome yet faintly feminine in appearance. However, at this moment, he appeared slightly pale, clearly struggling to make his way here. Around his body were 9 peculiar statues, each displaying a different expression: anger, joy, sorrow, and more. These statues, which had no hair, floated around the scholar, emitting faint yellow light that seemed to force him through the mist to this point. This scholar's forehead also lacked any numerical markings. When he saw Wang Lin, an expression of surprise appeared on his weary face. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, but his heart stirred with a great upheaval. He knew well how powerful this mist was, yet the person before him had somehow walked all the way here. Without speaking, Wang Lin turned and stepped straight toward the crack, preparing to enter the ancient burial ground. "Fellow Taoist, could you lend a hand?" A voice, sweet and feminine, came from the scholar. Within the primordial stars, in a boundless expanse of starry sky, a massive palace floated. This stretch of sky seemed to be hidden within the primordial stars, unreachable by anyone. Inside the palace, it was dimly lit, with only a few candles flickering in an unpredictable glow, emitting faint popping sounds. By the light of the flames, one could barely make out the shape of a well on the palace floor. The well contained water, its surface like a mirror. Reflected in the water were 3 candle flames, indistinguishable from reality. A figure, completely cloaked in a black robe with no visible features, silently stood beside the well, gazing at the water. Beyond the reflected flames, a white-haired silhouette appeared. It was unmistakably Wang Lin. Wang Lin's figure was surrounded by the 3 candle flames, as if sealed in place. But the moment Wang Lin stepped into the mist within the primordial stars, the water in the well began to ripple. A tremor surged through the surface as if some force from beyond this world was interfering. Amidst the shaking, Wang Lin's figure twisted and slowly dissipated. The ancient tomb suddenly opens, disturbing my plans. Such a pity, such a pity. Moon fishing in the well, just a hair's breadth away. The figure cloaked in black muttered in a hoarse, aged voice as he watched. He raised his right hand, revealing his dry fingers and the thin, slightly curved nails, which gently tapped the water's surface. The ancient tomb was vast and heavy, involving deep complexities. One must carefully consider every move. Without a sound, a ring of ripples suddenly spread from the point where the blue light touched the old man's fingers, transforming into a forceful shockwave that struck his black robe, causing it to flutter with a faint popping noise. "I may choose to ignore your moon fishing in the well on him. But if you kill him, I think." A calm voice emerged from the blue light on the water's surface. After a brief pause, the voice spoke again. "I will make my move." The black-robed elder fell silent for a moment before speaking hoarsely. "You are not my match. I can worsen your injuries." The voice from the blue light remained calm. The black-robed elder said nothing. After a long while, it seemed he let out a soft sigh, and his hoarse voice resonated. "We have an agreement. Back then, you asked me to intervene, and I did. Do you no longer want to reclaim your wife's body? Do not forget, you are one of the 5 ancient sovereigns." The voice in the blue light fell silent, and after some time, it spoke again, carrying a tone of age and exhaustion, echoing in the great hall. "I am, first and foremost, a father." The hall was quiet, save for the faint sound of the flames burning. In this silence, it almost felt like the sound of contemplation. Only this once. The black-robed elder slowly turned and walked deeper into the hall. The blue light in the well silently faded. "Friend, could you lend a hand?" Outside the crack in the ancient tomb, amidst the dense mist, Wang Lin's steps into the crack did not falter in the slightest due to this sentence or the pleasant voice. He acted as if he hadn't heard the words, completely ignoring them. His body turned into a streak of brilliant light, plunging directly into the twisted space beyond the crack. The mist was distorted, more like the void itself. As Wang Lin stepped in, it felt as though he had left this world entirely. His presence vanished completely, and his figure disappeared in an instant, leaving only the stunned middle-aged scholar to watch as he entered the crack of the ancient tomb. Wang Lin was no child, nor did he have excessive curiosity. He had no intention of offering help, especially to someone whose identity was unclear. To him, the middle-aged scholar who had forcibly arrived here seemed very dangerous. Such a person was someone he would avoid interacting with at all costs. Even if the scholar promised benefits for his help, Wang Lin would leave without hesitation. His mind was exceptionally clear now, and he sensed a subtle difference in himself compared to before entering the mist of the ancient tomb. But that small difference made him feel a looming sense of danger. The more he reflected on his actions within the primordial stars, the more he felt that they weren't his own. It seemed as though some force had entered him and was quietly controlling his thoughts, guiding his every move. Feeling a sense of alarm, he grew even more cautious, ignoring the middle-aged scholar entirely. Seeing the strange youth swiftly leave the moment his words were spoken, the scholar furrowed his brow. Despite being less than 100 paces from the crack in the ancient tomb, his powerful cultivation and magic tools could only bring him this far. Beyond this point, he was unable to proceed. The mist around him surged, growing more violent. The middle-aged scholar sighed inwardly. It seems that forcing my way into the ancient tomb with my own body is impossible. That young man doesn't have the mark of the tomb on his forehead. His identity is now clear. Aside from the brute Tuasun, the only other one capable of this is the ancient god who caused Seventh Sister's avatar to perish. The middle-aged scholar's gaze flickered, and with a swift motion, he raised both hands and made a gesture. A single finger pointed, causing the 9 bald statues surrounding him to immediately radiate flashes of light. With a wave of his jade hand, the light grew even brighter, intertwining to form a beam that almost completely enveloped his body. In a moment, from within the mist, a woman's figure emerged from the light. Her beauty was unmatched, with long hair flowing down to her waist. She wore a white gown, and her body seemed somewhat transparent, revealing 9 glowing lights circulating within her. The instant her figure appeared, the mist surged forward, rushing into her body. A faint mark appeared on her forehead, signaling the presence of an imprint. With a soft sigh, the woman took a delicate step forward and entered the fissure of the ancient burial ground 100 paces away. As her figure crossed the threshold, the light in the mist slightly dissipated. The middle-aged scholar stepped back, retreating toward the distance. His face was slightly pale, and inwardly, he thought, only by sending a clone into the ancient tomb, that little ancient god's body bears the faint marks of moon fishing in the well. The only one capable of this technique, apart from him, is no one but me. Perhaps there is still a chance for cooperation between me and this little ancient god. My elder sister and 8th sister have been missing for many years. The 2nd sister has already found her collaborator, and even the fox spirit, 4th, has spared no expense in seizing that reckless man, Tuasun. 5th sister has taken over another's body, and Blue Dream Dao Sovereign is naturally along for the ride. If I don't find a partner soon, I'll likely be isolated. As the middle-aged scholar pondered, his figure gradually grew distant. Just as he was about to leave the misty ancient tomb, his eyes suddenly flickered, and his body came to an abrupt halt. He looked into the distance. Far away, the mist churned, and low growls and roars could be heard. A violent, cruel aura exploded out, and the roar carried an undertone of madness. You may not seek me, but I'll come to you anyway. You, woman, shut up. Shut up. Shut up. A laughter that stirred the heart followed the roar, a sound full of temptation, like the enchantment of demonic music. Not saying anything, huh? The more you rage, the more I enjoy it. Being with you is far more pleasurable than with that useless immortal venerable. In an instant, a towering figure emerged from the mist, thundering forward. This figure was so large that it seemed like a cultivation star, though it gradually began to shrink as it moved forward. It was Tuasun. At this moment, Tuasun's eyes were bloodshot, as if driven by madness. His expression was twisted in fury, yet his aura radiated dominance. With every step, he roared, heading directly toward the middle-aged scholar. Isn't this the usually proud 3rd sister? How is it that with her cultivation, she can't enter the ancient tomb? The tempting voice, laced with allure, slowly emanated from the center of Tuasen's forehead. The middle-aged scholar sneered, taking a few steps back and retreating in another direction. His voice echoed from afar. The fox spirit's nature is hard to change. I can smell that nauseating scent from miles away. Nothing compared to the lofty third sister, once the Celestial Gate sect's holy maiden. I suppose you're still a virgin, huh? When you were captured by the immortal venerable, they used you as a perfect furnace. Too bad that old fool couldn't enjoy it. But I wonder who will take advantage of the cheap benefit now. The seductive voice giggled, unbothered, as Tuasen's figure gradually faded into the distance. The middle-aged scholar's eyes gleamed coldly, and with a snort, he walked further away. As Wang Lin stepped into the fissure of the ancient tomb, he immediately felt a force of transmission. Before he could fully take in his surroundings, he staggered back several paces, his hands forming a gesture. A radiance surrounded his body, and a shadowy light seemed to merge with him. This was his cautious nature at work. After all, this was the ancient burial ground, and many had entered before him. Precaution was necessary. Just as the shadowy light enveloped Wang Lin's body, there was a deafening crash. A powerful force slammed into him, colliding with the protective light surrounding his body. Luckily, Wang Lin's cautious nature had him deploy the light and shadow shield before the ambush. The instant the attack hit, the light from his shield exploded outward, reflecting the incoming force. A muffled grunt was heard, followed by the sound of someone hurriedly retreating. This all happened in the blink of an eye. Almost the moment Wang Lin stepped into the fissure, someone had ambushed him, but in an instant, they withdrew. Now, Wang Lin could finally take in his surroundings. The place looked similar to the one he saw outside the fissure, but it was not quite the same. It was clear that, upon entering the fissure, everyone had been transported to different areas. The sky was dim, and the earth was covered in a thick mist. This mist was like the sea, unfathomably deep, slowly writhing. At times, it would open up like a gaping black hole, as if waiting to devour everything. In midair, countless floating stone platforms stretched endlessly. On each of these platforms was a severed head, and at first glance, there seemed to be an innumerable number of these stone platforms scattered across the horizon, with no end in sight. Directly in front of Wang Lin, a middle-aged man dressed in a Taoist robe hurriedly retreated. His face was pale, blood still dripping from the corners of his mouth. His eyes, filled with horror, were locked on Wang Lin. He was the one who had just launched the ambush. In the sky, dozens of cultivators were present, all wearing expressions of shock. As Wang Lin's gaze swept over them, they instinctively took a step back. The air was thick with the stench of blood. Wang Lin's eyes flickered, and he immediately deduced that these cultivators had joined forces more than once to kill those who were brought into this place, still in a daze and filled with fear. Kill and plunder. Further in the distance, scattered cultivators could be seen trying to step onto the various platforms. However, these platforms seemed to be surrounded by a strange force, one that prevented any divine powers from breaking through, keeping everyone from entering. A quick glance revealed that there were hundreds of cultivators in this area. However, the space was so vast that it didn't feel densely packed.